The gaze that controls the clock, controls the conversation. Now, that's not a statement about aggression. It's not about some alpha male staring contest or trying to intimidate someone. No, this is like a law of physics for human interaction. It's a fundamental truth about a force that's at play in every single meeting, every negotiation, every conversation you'll ever have. It's all about the masterful, subtle control of time. You see, in every exchange, there's this silent auction going on right under the surface, a negotiation for status, for credibility, for whose ideas are actually going to be heard. And the currency in that auction, it's not how loud you are, it's not even how smart your words are. It's who commands the visual timeline. And today, we're not just going to talk about it. We're going to take this system apart, piece by piece, and hand you the operator's manual.
So let's start with a feeling. A feeling I bet you know, but maybe you've never put a name to it. It's what traps people in this invisible cage. This is that deep, unsettling anxiety you get when you're visually dismissed. You know the feeling, right? It's like you're standing behind an invisible wall. You know you've got value, you've got something to say, but your words just seem to evaporate before they can ever land. It's this chronic sense of being undervalued, and not because you're not good enough, but because of some silent, nonverbal judgment that's passed in the first few seconds of you talking to someone. This cage, it's built out of little things, glances away, dismissed eye contact, that just add up over time until you start to believe you're not even worth the attention.
Let's make this really, really clear. Picture this. You're in a huge meeting. It's important. You've done the work, you're the expert in the room on this, and you've been waiting for your moment. You see an opening. You lean in to share that one key insight that could literally change everything. And as you start to talk, the person you're talking to, the decision maker, gives you a quick glance, and then their eyes just drift. They check their phone, they look at the clock, they scan someone else's face, and in that split second, your sentence isn't even finished, but a verdict has already been delivered. Your idea has just been devalued. And all you're left with is this awful, paralyzing confusion. You know you're competent. You know your idea is good, but the nonverbal feedback is screaming a completely different story. It's a silent, brutal takedown that makes you question everything.
And here is the absolute root of that paralysis. It's a massive conflict between who you are on the inside and what you're signaling on the outside. Internally, you've got your competence, your experience, your knowledge, you know your stuff, but externally, your unconscious habits, your gaze patterns might be signaling the exact opposite. Maybe you're always the first one to break eye contact. Maybe you look down when you're making your most critical point, almost like you're asking for permission to speak. And this constant clash between knowing you're an authority and signaling that you're a subordinate, well, it creates this intense internal friction. It's exhausting. And over time, it does more than just frustrate you. It actually eats away at your confidence. You end up being chronically overlooked, not for a lack of substance, but for a lack of signal control.
And this is exactly where the trap snaps shut. There's a name for the mechanism that locks that cage: authority bias. And here's how the vicious cycle works. Your submissive gaze patterns, that quick look away, looking down, they're read by other people's subconscious as a sure sign of high anxiety and low confidence. Now that signal of your anxiety then triggers their unconscious bias, the authority bias. It's a mental shortcut that basically tells them, hey, trust the person in the room who seems the most calm, the most certain. So what happens? They dismiss what you're saying and turn their attention to whoever is broadcasting those calm, stable signals. And of course, being dismissed spikes your anxiety, which just reinforces those submissive gaze patterns, making it even more likely you'll be dismissed the next time. It's a brutal, self-reinforcing loop that just locks you into a low-status position.
All right, we've talked about the feeling, we've talked about the psychological trap. Now it's time to pop the hood and look at the engine. We're going to shift gears here and get purely strategic, deconstructing this power gaze system like an engineer. We're going to find the components, the leverage points, and figure out exactly how it creates power out of thin air. This isn't magic, people, it's mechanics.
This right here is the absolute core of the entire system. It's the master key. The most critical leverage point in any visual exchange isn't about who stares the longest or the hardest or with the most intensity. No, the real power, the thing that claims the higher status, belongs to the person who decides when eye contact begins and, far more importantly, when it ends. They control the visual endpoints. By holding your gaze for just a beat longer after you finish talking, or by being the one to calmly look away to signal a thought is complete, they are non-verbally setting the entire rhythm of the interaction. They own the clock. And when you own the clock, you are silently asserting that your time, your focus, your reality is the one that matters most.
And this slide lays it out perfectly. There are really only two states to this system. On one side, you've got the symmetrical gaze. Think of this as the visual signature of equals, of peers. It's comfortable, it's fluid, it's like a dance. I look at you, you look at me. I glance away to think for a second, so do you. We reconnect. There's a real balance. It feels like a partnership because visually it is one. But then you have the other side, the asymmetrical gaze. And this is the dead giveaway of a hierarchy. Here, one person is the conductor. They start the contact, they hold it, and they're the one who ends it, all on their schedule. The other person is just reacting. That imbalance, that lack of symmetry in who's driving the visual flow is what establishes the status difference before a single word about the actual topic is even spoken.
So let's walk through the exact process. This is the gaze compliance feedback loop in action. Step 1. The person with higher status takes control of the visual start and end points. They make eye contact and they hold it. Step 2. By holding that gaze, especially after the other person is done talking, they impose what's called cognitive load. This is just a state of mental discomfort. The other person's brain is scrambling, asking, wait, is this a threat? Am I supposed to keep talking? Why are they still looking at me? That little bit of ambiguity is incredibly taxing on the brain, which leads right to step 3, forcing deference rituals. To get relief from that psychological pressure, the other person feels this overwhelming urge to look away. That glance down isn't random, it's a compliance signal, a ritual of deference. And finally, step 4. That ritual confirms the dominance of the first person. The loop is complete, the hierarchy is locked in.
And this right here, this is the critical moment. This is the point of psychological surrender. The trap slams shut, the game is won. The very instant that the observer's internal anxiety, that cognitive load, becomes too much to handle, and they involuntarily look away. That simple movement, that glance to the side or down at their laptop, it's not just a physical act. It is a non-verbal broadcast that says, loud and clear, your frame is stronger than my frame. The pressure you're putting on me is too much. I yield. That's the payoff. The person deploying the power gaze just got their ideas moved to the front of the line without ever having to say a word.
So we've seen how the system works mechanically. But the big question is, why? Why is it so incredibly effective? Why does this silent, nonverbal thing have more power than a brilliant, well-reasoned argument? Well, to answer that, we have to go deeper than just office politics. We have to look at the ancient, primal wiring of our brains. This is all about the primal trigger.
The raw power of this system comes from one simple fact. It's not a modern social strategy. It is a direct hack into our most ancient survival programming. The power gaze works because it hijacks our primal threat response system. You have to remember, for millions of years out on the savannah, a direct, unwavering gaze from another animal meant one of two things. It's a predator about to attack you, or it's a challenger about to fight you for dominance. Our brains, specifically the amygdala, the little alarm system in there, are hardwired to react to that signal instantly and powerfully, long before our conscious rational mind can step in and say, hey, relax, we're just talking about quarterly earnings. The body's already reacted, the alarm bells are already ringing.
And on top of that primal foundation, the system pulls 4 key psychological levers to make it even stronger. First, it exploits something called the Primacy Effect. This just means our brains process nonverbal status cues before we process the actual words being said. So the hierarchy gets set before the argument even starts. Second, like we saw, it imposes a massive cognitive load, creating a state of mental discomfort that forces the other person to seek relief by looking away. Third, this pressure triggers our authority bias. We unconsciously connect someone's ability to stay calm and control our attention with them actually being competent. We just think, wow, if they're this calm and focused, they must know what they're talking about. And finally, it's a powerful form of low cortisol signaling. Cortisol is the stress hormone. A steady, calm gaze is basically a broadcast of low internal anxiety. And in a world filled with uncertainty, our brains are desperately looking for signals of safety and certainty. We read that stillness as leadership.
Okay, we've gone deep, we've analyzed the problem, we've deconstructed the mechanics, and we understand the psychology. We have a full diagnosis of the system. Now we move from theory to tactics. We are going to go from being a victim of this system to being an operator within it. This section, the strategic response, is all about the specific, concrete steps you can take to reclaim visual control and completely neutralize this dynamic. So I want you to pay very close attention here, because everything we've talked about, that entire feedback loop that seems so powerful, so inevitable, well, it can be stopped. It can even be reversed. There is a precise moment, a single point of intervention where you can hijack the system for yourself and shift the entire power dynamic of a conversation.
And this is it. This is the moment. Control shifts the instant you stop being a passive reactor in the visual game and you start actively, consciously managing the timeline yourself. When you are the one who decides when eye contact begins and, most critically, When you're the one who decides when it ends, you're not playing in their frame anymore. You're establishing your own. You are claiming co-ownership of the visual space, and you're sending a clear, undeniable, non-verbal signal that you are a peer.
So how do we actually do this? With a clear, simple protocol. Step 1 is just awareness. You have to start by just noticing the impulse in your own body. That feeling of anxiety that bubbles up when someone holds your gaze, that little voice screaming at you to look away first. Just notice it. That's the most important step. Step 2, actively claim initiation. When you have a point to make, you establish eye contact first, calmly and confidently. And step 3, this is the master move, actively claim termination. When you've made your point or when they've finished theirs, you be the one to calmly and deliberately break eye contact. Look away for a second to a neutral spot, as if you're thinking about what was said, then re-engage. That one action, ending the gaze on your own terms, it shatters the whole dynamic. You now control the clock.
Now, let's be real. Holding that gaze, especially when you're starting out, can feel incredibly difficult. Your own anxiety is going to fight you on it. That's where this next tool comes in. It's called the Triangulation Technique, and it's a super practical way to manage your own anxiety while you're building this skill. Instead of just locking onto their eyes, which can feel confrontational, you just let your gaze drift in a small, slow triangle, from their left eye to the right eye to a spot on the bridge of their nose or the middle of their forehead. Now, to them, it just feels like you're holding steady, engaged eye contact, but for you, that constant tiny movement keeps you from feeling pinned down, and it dramatically lowers the internal pressure. It's like training wheels that let you get the full effect while you learn to handle the feeling.
Ultimately, this whole entire strategy really boils down to one core principle. Volatility is vulnerability. When your eyes are darting around, when you break eye contact because you're anxious, when you fidget under pressure, you are signaling instability. And in any high-stakes situation, business, leadership, you name it, stability is the most valuable and persuasive power resource there is. A calm, controlled, deliberate gaze signals that you are a source of certainty in a very uncertain world. It signals that you are a stable force, and people are unconsciously drawn to and will always defer to stability.
So, we've pulled back the curtain on a really powerful system that's running just beneath the surface of our everyday lives. We've seen how it creates anxiety, how it works mechanically, and the deep psychological triggers it pulls. But more importantly, you now have the strategic tools to not just defend against it, but to establish your own authority. The system is no longer invisible to you, and what you can see, you can manage. So I'll just leave you with one question to take into your next meeting, your next negotiation, your next important conversation. Now that you see the system, who controls the clock?